Well, welcome into Weather Center Live. I'm Alex Wilson.
I'm Dave Schwartz. Lots to cover. The coldest air of the season so far, spreading south and east for the weekend. Not the worst.
No.
But overnight lows get down to near freezing. 75 million Americans under some kind of frost or freeze alert beginning tonight.
But we start with amazing video and stories from Southern California where the weather turned real bad real quick. Miles of mud trapped people, all of them. We've got freeze warnings in the brighter pink. The light pink is the freeze watch, and the frost advisories, those are the areas in blue. So a lot of real estate covered up by those advisories. Right now, the temperatures, they're balmy across the southern tier of the Midwest and into the southeast. We've got upper 60s in Nashville, mid 60s in St. Louis, but changes are coming. Through the weekend, that colder air takes hold as that dip in the jet stream really digs right across the eastern half of the country. Large area of high pressure settled over southern Indiana and Illinois is going to allow for gusty winds out of the north to help to draw that cooler air south. Morning lows tomorrow, how about 20s and 30s across the area, low 30s for places like Detroit and Chicago. On Sunday morning, it's 28 in Cincinnati, 25 in Marquette. Now on Monday morning, places like Chicago, St. Louis won't be as chilly, but still around Cincinnati, we're going to be seeing those lows in the low 30s, and you'll see the east will keep the cold for that Monday morning trip to the bus stop or to work. Sunday morning, lows well into the 30s, 30 in fact for Burlington, 31 Buffalo, 33 in Pittsburgh. By Monday morning, it's right at the freezing mark for Boston and mid 30s for New York and D.C. So even the big metro areas as you head back to work or school, it's going to be chilly. Sunday morning, forecast lows at or below the freezing mark for many places. Burlington, Albany, and Syracuse will all be below 32. We'll be very close in Pittsburgh. The last time you were at or below the freezing mark in these places, mid to late April of this year. Pittsburgh, your average low is 43. We're going low 30s Sunday and Monday morning.
One of the threats you have to deal with when rain is on the menu in California.
And especially when we look at this area, look at the terrain. We're showing you some of that. So we had the rain come down yesterday afternoon and evening. Onto some of those higher spots, and then it rushes to the lower locations. Now overnight and into today, it's been west of, or rather east of LA, where we've seen that terrain rainfall once again.
Death Valley is under a flash flood warning right now, of all places, right? There's your upper level low. You can see that on this water vapor image. I'm sure even Jack can see that. Jack, can you see that? Upper level low, one of our studio guests. There's the rain, and there's some big storms out there in Arizona too.
Yeah, I mean, this is always the science behind what actually results. So why did we get flash flooding with not that much rain? You might be wondering. Well, because the desert, the landscape plays a factor in just what kind of results we'll see from what kind of rainfall.
Sure, and in that area, we've got hills and mountains and valleys. So already the water is funneled into narrow areas, right?
So you've got the heavy rain falling on the desert, but desert soil, it doesn't absorb rainfall. It's not like rain falling on a cornfield or your grassy backyard.
Which is why there's not much growing out there. It's a desert.
That rain's going to accumulate, but what happens is when you add in terrain, that's when that water, which just accumulates on the surface of the ground, really gets rushing downhill.
Which is what happened in upstate South Carolina about 2 weeks ago, right? So topography also an issue. And of course this dry soil, it just mixes in with the water, and then you have a mud flow across Highway 58 and Interstate 5.
And those creek and river beds that, as you pointed out, are oftentimes
normally dry, arroyos, those kinds of things.
They turn into raging rivers.
Raging rivers, right. So you've got to be careful.
Well, is this latest disaster a sign of things to come? Just ahead, we'll explain how the strong El Nino could lead to even more flooding and more mudslides in California this week.
Boy, those are just some of the scenes from Southern California yesterday when heavy rain triggered mudslides and flash floods. People were trapped in their cars. Homes were damaged even. Behind us, new video from Interstate 5 being cleared. That's all the mud that came down, and it came down fast.
It did. It came down very quickly, and you saw in the video, I mean, just the rushing muddy waters, just a few hours of rain. And this has people concerned, especially with a strong El Nino forecast to bring more rain to California this winter. That's in NOAA's new outlook for winter, and it has some people a little nervous.
And NBC's Miguel Almaguer has more on the weather extremes that could be ahead.